Ooh, it's getting real creaky. That's gonna require attention. So I've done a lot to this bike. Changed out a lot of components. I have one more thing I want to do to this. The dropper post is pretty low quality and pretty sticky. I'll probably replace that, but the thing I want to do today is the headset has developed a creak, and when I changed out my stem and everything, I didn't clean the bearings in the headset and re-grease them, and I think that's probably why. I think I just have dirty bearings that need to be re-greased. So I'm going to pull that, re-grease the bearings, put it all back together, and hopefully that takes care of the sort of creaky headset. It's not a good sound, and it's getting worse as time goes on, and I don't know if it's doing damage to the carbon frame or not, but let's not find out. So let's grease that headset. I don't think I'm going to need a lot of tools for this one. I think it's just the, I believe this is a 5mm socket in my torque wrench, some grease, maybe some Loctite for the way that I've got my headset screwed together with the specialized SWAT tool instead of a star nut in the headset, in the steerer tube. So this should be it. Let's get started. So I'm going to want to take the wheel off and the brake caliper off since I'm going to be removing the fork. So that'll be a 6mm. Take the wheel off. I've got this zip tie here that I'm gonna have to clip and reaffix later. That's not too big a deal. We'll take that. Stick a brake caliper blocker thing in there, and then remove the caliper. All right, we'll use an Allen key for this one. Just gonna let everything kind of sit here and dangle. All right, I'm gonna rest this in the bottle cage holder to keep it from wobbling around while I disassemble the rest of this. Since I'm using the specialized SWAT tool, you can see up here there's a nut that holds this whole thing together. The first thing I want to do is actually loosen the headset. Some room to play around, and I think this being just loose will let the SWAT tool pop out. So the trick is going to be, as soon as I loosen this, the whole fork assembly is going to want to fall out. So you can, if you're one person and you're nervous about it, you can use zip ties or you can just hold on to it. I'm going to give it a I'm gonna hold it while I do this work. And I'm actually gonna twist it off the top here. So this is the specialized SWAT tool. Again, this is something you use instead of a star nut in the steer tube. And it's super handy. It has a chain breaker tool, although I've never had to use that. It has a nice little pop-out multi-tool to do most of the stuff you want to do. All right, so this is the delicate part of the operation. I want to set these things over here. And this is all going to want to come apart now. And I'm going to want to lay it out in the order. So this is first, second, third, and then the stem, and then my two other spacers. So we've loosened up the stem. This should just wiggle out now. Yeah, these are pretty loose. So it's literally just kind of compression holding this thing together now. So now I can see lots of grit and grime, and this explains a lot. So I'm going to be careful about pulling this out now, because I don't want to drop a bunch of parts on the floor. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of let this hang here for the moment, and I'll grab my spacers from the bottom and I will pull this out. Okay, so these are the three top, and then goes this one, then this one on bottom. Yeah, this is nasty. I understand why my headset is squeaking. We will clean and re-grease this. Maybe what I'll do next, actually, is I'm gonna grab some gloves instead of getting this stinky grease all over my fingers. So again, part ordering is important here. So we'll pull the pieces out of the headset. I think that's everything. I'll lay this on the paper towel. I've been going top to the bottom, left to right, and trying to keep the orientation right. Here's my bearing. That's my top headset bearing. All right, so that's the top in order. And now we'll get the bottom in order. There's a washer here, and this is that washer that spreads to widen and compress the fork into position. I think this is my bottom bearing. That's it. Yeah, this stuff is pretty nasty. It's you know, I've been riding for 600 or 700 or 800 miles in a lot of dirt and dust, so getting this clean it's time. All right, so this is the top, this is the bottom. Let's just start wiping it down with paper towels. And then I've got these microfiber towels that I buy in bulk. This has a little rubber gasket in it. I'm not going to separate the rubber gasket out. I'm just going to make sure I don't remove it accidentally. I'll try to get it clean as best I can, like fingernail style underneath the gasket. I really don't want to try to like reassemble a gasket. All right, part one done. And we'll just keep going. Part two, we'll get with the microfiber to finish off. Looking good. Part three, this is the top headset bearing. I'm not going to go so far as to actually disassemble the bearing and repack with grease or anything like that. I'm hoping to not need that. Let me see if I hear any. The action in it is smooth. It actually is. The bearing itself is fine. In some cases it may be gritty already in the bearing, and then you do need to do something like repack or replace it. I'm pretty lazy. I'd probably just replace it. And this seems like where most of the grease lives. And whoever's job it is to keep dirt out of this, to keep this from becoming paste is sleeping on the job. Hit it with the microfiber. I'm not going to eat off it, but it's should be cleaner than that. Then it showed up. All right, and this is the nasty one. That is wild. This one is, I mean, it makes sense that the bottom bearing that sits in the cup has accumulated the most nasty grease, but it's not just grease, it's grit. This paper towel's about had it. So I build PCs too, and no one who does PC building videos will show you how much thermal paste they apply, because that's where all the commenters show up and tell you you're doing it wrong. And I think applying grease to components is probably the equivalent. So if folks see this and they're like, how dare you apply too much or too little grease to these as you reassemble, I'm getting smooth and consistent action in here. I don't think these bearings aren't dead yet. Time to clean out the headset itself. Clean out the cups. We'll take this top headset cup out. I will put this with microfiber towel. It also has a rubber gasket in here that I'm trying to just kind of stick my fingernails in and clean as best I can. Not going to remove it. All right, and let's clean out the nasty headset. And this bike has an adjustable headset cups, which is a cool idea, but I don't have any desire to adjust the stock geometry of this bike. It seems great to me out of the box. Okay. So this may be the nastiest of all of them. This is the fork, and it has accumulated dirt and grime and grease, and could actually be the culprit of our creaking and squeaking sounds. So this one I may give a little extra attention to. Our last paper towel. All right, we are ready to grease and reassemble. All right, so time to start reassembling. We'll start with the fork and put this ring on first. I may put a little thin layer of grease. I may just do the inside. I don't love the idea of having a bunch of grease collect dust down here. So I'm just gonna grease the top side. And it's just gonna be a little bit. I'll get the cleanest part of the paper towel I can to smooth it all out. Maybe I'll apply a very thin layer on the bottom side, but the goal is to not have any on the outside of the bearing collecting dirt and dust and grime. So the angular side goes up. And we'll drop this down. Good action on that. That's the bottom part of the assembly. So given that this is a seal meant to keep water and dirt and grime out, I'm going to apply a little bit of grease to this side of the headset cup. I don't think this is on every bike. This is sort of an item that's meant to be part of the customizability of these Levos. So this grease is meant to keep things out, and so we'll wipe it down really good after. So here's our cup. I'll apply a thin layer of grease here too. It's very possible that this is what was creaking as well. So I'm just doing a little bit. All right, and squishing this in place. Looks good. Wipe it down. All right, we'll apply another thin layer of grease against the bearing. Just paper thin. I'll apply a little bit to the bearing itself to keep bad stuff out. Down, very thin layer around. All right, drop that in. This is gonna compress here. And this is the compression ring that actually holds stuff in place. Less concerned about making sure this is fully greased up, but we'll just get it a little lubricated with everything else. And its job is to smush down and hold everything in place. And then this cap, whose job is to protect everything inside. I'm hoping to avoid grease on the outside of this. So I'll try to keep things as clean as I can, but I do want grease on the inside, especially where you see this rubber gasket. I want that gasket doing its job of keeping dirt and grime out. So I'm trying to be a little bit careful to not bury this in plastic. Let's see if there's an orientation here. Just cosmetically, we'll put the branding at the top. That will smoosh down. Again, give it a good wipe down. Exterior. Compress it. All right. That's looking good. Once we start smushing this headset together, that should compress and hold itself in place. Now it's time to assemble. Let's keep this on hand, and then we'll do a little bit of grease all the way up on the fork. Now, I don't have, and I don't need for this install, I don't think, I'm not really looking for like carbon paste or anything like that for this install. I'm doing a really thin layer of grease all around. Now that I've got grease all over my hands, maybe I'll take this glove off and have one greasy hand and one clean one, and have a towel at the ready. All right. So this is the tricky part of the assembly, because I don't want to pop this stuff out, so you have to go somewhat carefully. Well, almost got it. So the next thing to do, now that we're getting the fork assembled, is to drop in the spacers. I've put these spacers in order, top and bottom. So this is the bottom spacer, top spacer. Got to get the orientation, obviously. And make sure that my cable routing is appropriate. This looks right. And we'll bring this back down. And the sheer friction force of the stem is going to hold this in place for now. Let's not take any chances. We'll tighten this up. Just snug. Okay. That will give us a chance to put the top spacers in and start putting our SWAT tool back in place. So we're back with our fun little spacers. So this spacer needs to exist there. This tool sticks up just a little bit. So I'll insert the SWAT tool, and then I'll come up from the other side and do the compression. Let's give the base of our SWAT tool just a little clean. And I think I'm going to apply a little bit of Loctite to it. The idea is that this should come in and out easily, because in the field you're expected to actually use this as this is the pin driver to break your chain if you need emergency repairs and you only have the tools on hand. So I'll give this a little bit of so we'll use some blue removable Loctite. Trying to find the thread without cross threading here. I think we found it. Now I want to make sure that the SWAT tool is lined up properly, like with the handlebars. All right, start tightening up the headset. And I don't want to over tighten the headset or the stem right now either, because I always have a hard time getting the stem perfectly straight until I get it off the bike. So I'll tighten it down a little bit, just snug, but then I'll actually tighten it to spec after I actually am confident it's straight. I think you don't want a full 10 Newton meters of torque on this, because I'm just realizing you're going to have to be able to undo this with your bike tool. And a trick I've been taught is never tighten anything with a bike tool, or that you need to undo with a bike tool. Always use your bike tool to actually tighten it in the first place. So then it's no tighter than you could undo. So if I'm in the field, I'm out on the trail, and I need to undo this, I need to know that my tools on hand are going to do the job. That's pretty snug. Now, this always kind of bothered me, this little bump right here, but I think that's just normal. I think that's how this sits in the headset cup. Okay, so now take the brake. See how the steering feel is? Seems about right. No idea if this is straight or not, but we'll get that later. Okay, time to reinstall the brake calipers. I went ahead and threw a little Loctite on the threads. Got the spacer there. Looking good. I'm gonna have to look up the torque specs for this, though I think I'll wait to torque this down until I've got the wheel on and I can make sure that the brake is aligned with the rotor. So I'll get it snug and then back off of it. Yeah, perfect. Okay, I've got my torque wrench set to 10 Newton meters. I'm gonna go ahead and actually, while I've got my axle here, I'm gonna give it a little hit of grease, like a very small amount. Take my brake caliper protector thing out. I never remember the name of this. Get the rotor aligned. Make sure to catch the threads. Seems good. All right. I think I may be done with grease, hopefully. And get my 6mm on here. That is 9 Nm as specified. I think I'm going to go 9 Nm on the brakes as well. So I'll tighten these down. I'll be able to torque one of these to spec, but the other one I can't quite reach. So this is one of my least favorite things because it's hard to get right until you're actually writing. So this looks about right to me, so I'm going to make sure these are torqued properly. I'm doing 12 Nm on this. That should be tight enough to not slip, but also possible to get off if I'm in trail. Yeah, that's torqued. Looks right to me. One more thing to do and then we're ready. So there's supposed to be a little clampy thing here that either didn't get with my fork or can't remember where it went. And I'm gonna kind of do double duty here and zip tie my fender to this place. And snip it. And I think we can call that good. We're back in business, baby. It actually feels a lot smoother. So I think we got it. Yeah, feels good. No more headset creaking. No more headset creaking. That's great news.